Hey y'all, it's Diann Bayes, the #1 quester and founder of How Big is Texas? Welcome to my neck of the woods in beautiful Northeast Texas, where the oak woods and prairies converge with the piney woods. How Big is Texas started in 2020 as we were coming out of the pandemic. I drove the perimeter of the state more than 3,300 miles and have been traveling the back roads and the highways ever since to enjoy big miles, big taste, and big adventures. This podcast is for your enjoyment, my amusement, and to share a little something about the Lone Star State. Thanks for listening. Now let's get started on today's Texas Quest. Many Texans who watched the 2011 movie Bernie, starring Jack Black and Shirley MacLaine, understood it, while non-Texans like my husband and stepson stared at me in disbelief, wondering why I was cackling at a movie based on a true story about the murder of a woman in East Texas. Spoiler alert for those of you who haven't seen this 14-year-old film. She was killed and hidden in the freezer by a beloved Sunday school teacher and church choir member in the town of Carthage. Is today's podcast about that movie? Not really, but it is about a certain map that was included in the film that got some Texans up in arms. Actor and Texas native Sonny Carl Davis played a character in a diner who describes Texas in the documentary-like movie. A map is included in the description. Granted, none of the descriptions are kind to Texans from any region, but they are funny. I don't care who you are. Included in his account are a bunch of flat ranches in describing West and Central Texas, the Dallas snobs of North Texas, the carcinogenic coast along the Gulf, where the Tex meets the Mex along the Rio Grande Valley, liberal fruitcakes in the Texas Hill Country, and where the South begins in East Texas. His final description is of the Panhandle, and on his map it covers everything just north of Lubbock and west of Vernon. What is his description? He said, and I quote, "Of course I left out the Panhandle, and a lot of people do." This was followed by a long pause and a picture of a question mark on that portion of the map. Based on this movie, and I love more than my luggage, I'm here today to defend the question mark portraying the Texas Panhandle in Bernie. Having spent years in the area and visited numerous times, there's a whole lot more to it than the movie would have you believe. One of the biggest things you'll find in the area, literally, is located just outside the town of Canyon, home to West Texas A&M University. If you drive 19 miles east, you'll come to the second largest canyon in the U.S., Palo Duro Canyon. While it is much smaller than the Grand Canyon, this 800-foot deep canyon covers 30,000 acres. And a bonus about this canyon versus its much larger cousin, you can drive your car down into the canyon to experience it from the bottom without having to walk or rent a mule to take you. Another wonderful activity you can experience in the canyon's amphitheater is Texas, the Outdoor Musical. It's based in the 1880s and includes a storyline of the farmers and ranchers who settled there back in the day. I first saw the musical when I was around 12 years old, and it made a huge impression on me. Secretly, I dreamed of one day being in the performance, but unfortunately, God blessed me with 2 left feet, so the dancing alone canceled any chances I might have had. The 2025 season is about to wrap up with the final performance scheduled for August 9th. Even if you can't make it this year, put it on your calendar as a must-see in the future. You won't be disappointed. Another thing you can do in the canyon is go horseback riding. Some people are under the impression that the state park is the only place you can see the gaping hole of wonder, but there are a number of ranchers who own land that includes the canyon. One of those is Cowgirls and Cowboys in the West. My one and only time to ever go horseback riding took place there when I was in my late 40s. I was visiting the area, and I literally had to have help even getting on the horse. My new 1,000-pound friend with me on its back walked around on flat land at a slow pace that would have made a turtle blush. I had the slow and steady wins the race mentality, and I was glad my horse did too. The sweet owner, who was obviously comfortable, overlooking her land while mounted on a horse since she'd done it for a while, suggested that I was doing really well and was ready to take the horse down into the canyon. I was glad my face was turned away from her when she said those words. Otherwise, she would have caught the fright in my eyes at the thought of it. In the back of my mind, a John Wayne quote appeared out of nowhere. No doubt it was due to my husband's love of the Duke's movies and the fact that he starred as Colonel Davy Crockett in the movie The Alamo. I heard him say, "Courage is being scared to death but saddling up anyway." Wah-ha. We rode down into the canyon, and I didn't fall off the horse. I also didn't fall off the horse going up, but I'll say it was touch and go for a minute. We literally rode through rocky terrain, brush, and brambles. If I could survive that, y'all could. I suggest you give it a try when you go to Panhandle for a visit. If you're more the museum type, several places in the Panhandle come to mind. Amarillo is home to the American Quarter Horse Hall of Fame and Museum and the Texas Air and Space Museum. You can travel further north to Canadian, where I actually took my driver's test when I was a teenager, and you can visit the River Valley Pioneer Museum. Even further north, in the town of Perryton, home of John R. Erickson, the author of the Hank the Cowdog children's book series, you can visit the Museum of the Plains. And if you're into ranching, the XIT Museum in Dalhart tells the story of one of the best-known ranches, the XIT. Over its history from 1885 to 1912, it covered more than 200 miles. One of my favorite places to visit is the Charles Goodnight Historical Center, located 40 miles east of Amarillo. Charles Goodnight's homestead is here. He was a rancher known for his many cattle drives. One of those drives is named for him and fellow rancher Oliver Loving. The Goodnight Loving Trail drove cattle from Texas to Colorado. Loving was also said to have been the inventor of the chuck wagon. For those of you not familiar with a chuck wagon, it was essentially a food truck back in the day. Chuck wagon cooks were a rare breed, and chuck wagon competitions still take place to this day around the U.S., showcasing this piece of history in the West. In 2026, the infamous Route 66 from Chicago to Los Angeles celebrates its 100th anniversary. A small portion of the route came through the Texas Panhandle, starting with Shamrock in the east, passing through Amarillo, and leaving Texas by way of the ghost town of Glen Rio. The states and communities that the Mother Road passed through are planning big celebrations next year, including Amarillo. If you ever plan to motor west on the highways, that's the best. At least according to the song of the same name. You can stop in Shamrock and check out the Tower Station and You Drop In Cafe, iconic reminders of days gone by. For something a little out of the ordinary, Shamrock is also known to have a fragment of the Blarney Stone from the castle of the same name in Ireland. It apparently got here in the 1950s to help promote Ireland to visitors. You can find it in Elmore Park. I suppose if you want to pucker up and kiss the Blarney Stone, that's up to you. Make sure to sanitize before and after. Just saying. On your way west towards Amarillo, check out the Leaning Tower of Texas, a formerly functioning water tower that was purchased and moved by Ralph Britton to advertise his truck stop. Designed by Britton to purposely lean at an 80-degree angle to get traffic to come off the highway and get something to drink or grab a bite to eat at his diner. He was a genius. Heading into Amarillo going west, you can get information about their area at the TxDOT Travel Information Center and then go directly across the road to one of the newest Buc-ee's in the state. You would only grab snacks, at least that's what I suggest, because you're only a few miles from the infamous Big Texan Steak Ranch. What Buc-ee's is to convenience stores, the Big Texan is to steakhouses. You can't miss the bright yellow and blue building decked out in Texas flags along Interstate 40 or former Route 66. If you come hungry enough, you can compete in their 72-ounce steak challenge. It's not for the faint of heart. Not only do you have to eat this roast-sized piece of beef, you also have to gobble up the shrimp cocktail, baked potato, salad, and roll that comes with it. And you only have an hour. Now, if you can't stop to participate in the challenge, you can actually live stream it on their website, bigtexan.com. The last time I visited the Big Texan, I had my very first mountain oysters. If you're not familiar with them, let's just say they come from a very personal part of the bowl and have no connection to the sea, despite the name. Once I got past what they were, I didn't think they were so bad. Other names these delectable delights are called include calf fries, huevos de toro, and my personal favorite, prairie oysters. They're breaded, deep-fried, and funnily enough, they're served with cocktail sauce. If you're interested in graffiti, you have two options along Old Route 66 through Amarillo. Just past the Big Texan, you can stop and spray paint to your heart's delight at Slugbug Ranch. You'll need to bring your own spray paint when you go. This quirky attraction was moved from Conway, Texas to its present location. It includes not only Volkswagen Beetles, but also limousines, all partially buried in the ground for the graffiti enthusiasts to enjoy. Why did they call them slug bugs? I'm sure some of you might be asking. Before the invention of the tablet, cell phones, and personal computers, parents had to come up with a game for their children to play in the car. When you spotted a Volkswagen Beetle, you got to punch your siblings in the arm while yelling, "Slug bug." Since I was the baby in the family, I was not a fan of this particular game. Everyone else was bigger and stronger and seemed to take joy in having permission to hit their little sister. If for no other reason, I'm thankful for the invention of nonviolent games while traveling in a car. I'm still trying to get over it, but as sometimes happens on this podcast, I digress. For years, Texas and other areas of the U.S. were known for their indoor shopping malls consisting of stores and food shops in an enclosed area. You knew you were in a mall when you saw senior citizens walking every morning around the air-conditioned space in order to get their exercise, or random teenagers sipping on soft drinks at one of the many food outlets after the parents dropped them off for the afternoon while they ran errands. Sadly, many have gone by the wayside. If you go to Amarillo, you can check out Arts in the Sunset. What used to include department stores housed in the former Sunset Mall is now made up of the Amarillo Arts Institute, studios, and galleries for local artists. They even turned some of the vacant spaces into event venues. Very creative. If you don't get to check out Slugbug Ranch, or even if you do and are craving more legal graffiti time, you can always visit the original Cadillac Ranch on the western edge of Amarillo along former Route 66. Created in 1974 by Stanley Marsh and the Ant Farm, the ranch consists of a row of 10 Cadillacs that are buried nose first in the ground. Why, you may ask? Well, Mr. Marsh answers that question with another question. Why not? And yes, it's fun to create your masterpiece that will only live undisturbed for a few minutes. Snap a picture of your creation and it will live for much longer and you'll have a story to share. When I drove the perimeter of Texas with my friends Deborah and Morgan in the summer of 2020, when I first started my blog, howbigistexas.com, we drove by some rare and interesting sights in the Panhandle. For the birdwatchers out there, in the town of Farwell, southwest of Amarillo, along the Texas-New Mexico border, we saw a flock of Mississippi kites. We were there in early June, enjoying ourselves at a local park in the town and minding our own business, when we were dive-bombed by these falcon-like birds. Apparently, they were nesting and didn't like our presence there. In the almost ghost town of Conlin, between the towns of Dalhart and Stratford, you'll find a 20-foot cowboy statue wearing a belt buckle displaying the name Tex. Apparently, he was once on display in Dalhart at the Texas Cowboy Cafe, and you walk through his legs to get through the front door. Though Conlin only has a population of around 20 people, I think the current location is a little less invasive for poor Tex, if you know what I mean. In the mid-'70s to early '80s, I lived in the tiny town of Follett in the northeast corner of the Panhandle. East of the town is another small community called Booker. There is a sign at the entrance of town along Highway 15. That sign is bright green and reads, Booker, next 9 exits. What I have always loved about this sign is there are literally only 9 streets in Booker, so they are promoting visitors to turn onto any road in town, whether there's something on it or not. That's marketing genius, and I have to take my hat off to them. Unlike the rest of the state, trees are a rare commodity in the Panhandle. You won't see forest like we have in East Texas, where I live near Tyler. You won't find cedars like they have in the Hill Country, palm trees that are present along the Gulf, or cactus and mesquites that are found in the Rio Grande Valley and the Texas Mountain Trail region. The Panhandle is known for fuel, food, and fiber. You'll see the occasional oil well, wheat, corn, cotton, and sorghum. The farmers and ranchers in this area are important to the state of Texas, and I salute their hard work and dedication. The actor in the movie, Bernie, couldn't think of much to say about the Texas Panhandle. Having lived in the region and visited often, I have a whole lot of love for this part of the state and hope you'll give it a chance too. From the official international world headquarters of How Big is Texas, located near Athens, Carthage, Paris, and Palestine, I encourage you to explore all of Texas. You won't be disappointed. Well, that's all she wrote for this episode. I sure hope you enjoyed it. You can follow me on social media at How Big is Texas or on my blog, howbigistexas.com. If you like this podcast, y'all please take the time to give me a Texas-sized friendly review. Thanks again for listening. Until next time, from Texas, safe travels.